This is a North American bobcat, and his name is Bear. And the people who care for him often refer to him as Frankenbear. So you can probably guess, this is one ornery feline. And in our story, he's the nice cat. Meet Nairobi. They call him Roby for short. He's a caracal, a cat native to Africa and Southwest Asia. And he doesn't like anybody or any other cat. Or at least that's how things start when these two first come to Wildcat Haven, a sanctuary for displaced or abused captive-born wildcats. Over 60 rescued cats live here, ranging in size from tigers to servals. The unfortunate result of people acquiring wildcats as pets. Still, against this collection of exotic cats with traumatic backgrounds, Bear and Roby stand out.
Bear the bobcat actually came to Wildcat Haven in 2001, and he was a handful. Bless his little heart. He had been defanged and declawed. The people that had him thought that would make him a better pet. Oh, Bear was no pet.
We used to call him Frankenbear because he would come at you just really aggressive, and all of a sudden.
Roby the caracal came to Wildcat Haven in 2003. He came from a family in Kentucky who had purchased him as a pet, and the owner who had him before was a doctor, and he actually declawed him himself.
The wife, he was nice to, but then I guess he was attacking the husband, so they gave him up at a pretty young age because of his aggression.
Putting cats together for companionship is part of the effort to add enrichment to the lives of wildcats in captivity.
It's always important for us. We feel that all animals should have a companion. Bear, we hope that would improve his disposition if he had somebody to kind of hang out with. We tried to put him with bobcats, and it didn't work. He terrified the other bobcats. He would just walk around, and they would run from him, and he seemed very pleased about that. We went back to check him in like 10 minutes, and one of the bobcats was actually hanging from the roof trying to get away from Bear. So we realized that was not going to work. So Bear was kind of destined to be by himself, unfortunately.
Roby the caracal seems even more likely to live out his days in solitary.
When I first started, Roby was known as one of the most aggressive cats. You couldn't walk by his pen without him charging it.
We were really concerned because he didn't bond with us or anybody. He seemed very lonely.
He was, I would say, the toughest and scariest cat that was on the property.
Then, one day, during a facility maintenance project, the unexpected happens.
When we first started, we wanted to move Roby. We were redoing the pens that were on the hill. So we had to move Roby to a new enclosure, and we actually put him next to Bear.
We didn't think much of it, knowing neither one of those cats really liked other cats. So we thought actually that was a good spot because they would leave each other alone.
Bear didn't really make any fuss over Roby at first or do anything. And as like a week or two went on, he started rubbing up against like the enclosure, and Roby, believe it or not, wasn't attacking, wasn't hissing, wasn't doing anything, which was blowing my mind.
And we thought, maybe we could make this work.
And when I put them together, I was petrified, thinking we would have a brawl. Bear just like cooed him and started to headbutt, and they just connected.
It turns out these two grumpy old men are the perfect match for each other. A friendship that could never exist in the wild.
It's absolutely surprising to think that two animals from two totally different continents, mannerisms and habitats that they would live in can bond together. It just shows to us that companionship really is key for an animal that's captive. We see them grooming each other, and they wrestle a lot too. And what's funny is that Roby lets Bear chew his ears sometimes, and Bear seems to really like that. And it's nice because you can see he's very tolerant of that.
Changes can also be seen in other areas of behavior.
Roby, all of a sudden, he started to really like me. I never heard a hiss. He allows me to do things I would never thought in a million years I could do.
But this friendship will soon face a difficult challenge. Bear develops cataracts and eventually goes blind.
Bear will walk around and he coos to Roby so he can find where Roby is. And Roby will actually come to him and just walk past so he knows where he's at. I think he feels more of a commitment to Bear somehow, that he needs to help him.
Then Bear takes a sudden turn for the worse. The limits of this friendship are about to be severely tested.
He was sleeping and I went to wake him up and found that he couldn't stand up. I actually helped him stand up. I don't touch him normally, so the fact that he'd let me touch him scared me. So I actually stood him up and he couldn't walk. So I rushed him to the vet and they said he had vestibular issue.
The vestibular system is basically your inner ear. That's what gives you your balance. It works in conjunction with your eyes. Since Bear is blind, he doesn't have his eyes to help him tell which way is up and which way is down, so he uses his inner ear. With vestibular disease, your inner ear doesn't work correctly, so when Bear tips his head forward, his body doesn't know that his head's tipped forward, and it makes him stumble and loses his balance. And people would call it vertigo.
With vestibular, you kind of spin in circles and don't know your whereabouts, are very dizzy. So we had to separate Bear from Roby to put him in the house so we could monitor.
But there's another reason Bear must be separated from Roby: his own protection.
Animals work off of body language, and whenever an animal's acting oddly, other animals treat them differently.
We're never sure if Bear being vulnerable will affect Nairobi's natural instincts, and there's a chance that he could actually attack Bear. Even though he adores him, wild instincts are wild instincts. There's really nothing we can do, and we're not sure.
Separation starts to have an effect on Roby.
We all thought that Bear couldn't live without Roby, but I've noticed a big change in Roby where he's more depressed. It's almost as if he's looking out for Bear, like every time he hears a door open or, a voice, that he's waiting for Bear to come back.
Signs of recovery, Cheryl decides to try putting the two cats together again, but there's still concern over how Roby will react to Bear.
One of my big worries is that when they're put back together, that Bear may stumble or act odd, and Roby may misinterpret that as some form of aggression and react incorrectly.
When we put Roby and Bear back together, at first Roby was a little hesitant about Bear. I think the smells and the way that Bear was kind of acting.
Roby starts getting aggressive. But he's not hurting Bear, so they let it play out.
It seemed he was testing Bear, grabbed him by the scruff and tried to pull him down. It was just a test, and it was really, I think Bear passed it because he just let him do it.
Roby moves in one more time. And then it happens. They begin to connect.
I think the bond between Bear and Roby actually transcends friendship. I think they're soulmates, as much as you can say that.
The signs from the first play date are encouraging. But whether Bear will ever be well enough to rejoin Roby permanently remains uncertain.
We're very hopeful that as Bear improves, that we'll be able to put them back together again.
But I think just we'll take it slowly from here, and we'll just see how it kind of plays out between the both of them. And I'm almost 100% that they'll end up being back together again.